Hey students, welcome to Youth Service. We're glad you joined us. My name is John Mullins, and today hosting with me is a good friend of mine.
Jolia, hi.
That's right. I'm one of the youth pastors here. I've hosted before, but Jolia, this is your first time hosting.
It is.
So why don't you tell our students a little bit about you?
Okay, well, hi, my name is Jolia. I'm just graduating from Shubuka Hills High School. I've been going to Rock Harbor for about 6 years now, and then I'm going to be attending Saddleback for college.
So you've been coming since 6th grade?
6th grade, yep, since I was a little one.
Okay, so middle schoolers, continue to join us, be part of the ministry. This could be your future.
It's not that bad, guys. I promise you can do it.
Okay, Jolia, so with so many years in the ministry,
Yes.
years and years and years, middle school and high school, you have a lot of memories.
I do,
And
yes.
us leaders, we talk about students a lot. We've talked about you a lot.
Oh,
All good things, all good things.
Yeah.
But we have, or at least I have, a favorite memory with you involved in youth ministry, through all the summer camps and services. It has to do with this last fall.
Oh.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Okay, so it was it was around Halloween time. So we had an event, which ironically, I don't know if you remember, it was during a series that we called the Masks.
Oh, yeah, I definitely remember that.
Which is so ironic nowadays.
Yeah, with all the masks everywhere and everything.
Yes. So for like 3 weeks in a row, I was telling students, figuratively, do not wear masks. God did not design us to hide, be real. But can you imagine if I said that now?
Oh, so bad.
It'd be very, I feel like I'd go to jail, like if I was telling students not to wear masks now, okay? But anyways, at this event, during the series, we had a costume contest.
Yes.
And you won.
I did,
Why,
I did.
yeah, so share what you dressed up as.
Okay, so me and one of my really good friends, Jacqueline, we came with this last minute, but we decided to dress up as bachelorettes. And we decided to be our leaders. So I was Karen and my friend was,
Wasn't she Carly?
Carly,
Yeah,
yes, thank you. And we like made little signs and bios and had our rows and everything.
And one of the things when you won, you had like an acceptance speech.
Oh,
Classic,
yes.
a little extra, but I love it. You always bring the attitude and the fun. And your speech, you had a one-liner that that was next level. What was it?
It was like, hi, my name's Karen. I'm 23, but my face looks 20.
Yeah. Shows very inappropriate, but you know what? It was creative and you guys won.
Yep.
So continue to talking about inappropriate things. Nicki Minaj.
Oh, yes.
Not that she's inappropriate, but a lot of her songs. Like,
a little out there.
Yeah, I wanted to play a song like right now, but there's none we found that were appropriate. The whole world in a lot of ways have stopped right now.
Yes.
Being quarantined, staying at home. But celebrity buzz continues to move forward.
Definitely.
Because as you know,
Nicki Minaj is pregnant.
that's right. Big news.
Big news. Recent post, #preggers.
That's how she announced it
Yes.
to the world, which was crazy. Do you think she's gonna like start rapping about her kids soon?
Honestly, like she can definitely make a rap about like baby in the oven or something.
Baby in the oven, there it is. Wow, that is next level. That is, we'll have to see.
Definitely,
About
but I
9
mean,
months or so, we'll see what Nicki does with that.
yeah, but with her sitting at home and everyone sitting at home, I feel like everyone's binge watching shows now.
Of course.
And one of the ones I've been watching is Hamilton. What do you think about Hamilton, Jono?
What do I think?
Yes.
I'm glad you asked. Julia, as you know, I love seeing your guys' plays and theater. I came to one of yours in the December. My wife and I, we loved it. But as far as like adult, like real world, like Wicked or Waitress, I'm
Definitely.
it's a foreign language. It's a new world I don't know much about. So that's a long-winded way of saying my excuse. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, yikes.
Yes. I'm assuming it sounds like you have.
Well, I've only seen half of it, so.
I feel like that's worse than me.
I've
You've only seen half?
Yeah, it's 3 hours. It's lengthy, so.
Okay, so our theater community, we want to know if you think it's worse than not watch it all or only watch half of it. Stop. Both are bad. But we want to keep talking about bad things, mistakes, people like your mistake of only watching half.
Yeah.
Let's highlight some other mistakes in the ministry of students. We have one fail video this week that goes over the top.
Oh, over the top.
Watch this.
they are definitely not gonna get that back. That went all the way over the house.
Yes.
And did you see that one shirtless kid run after it? What was that?
That's funny you noticed that. That shirtless kid, Costa Mesa students, that's one of our new 6th graders. His name is Liam. It's funny you notice him running around with his shirt off because a couple weeks ago at our middle school service, he actually on Zoom was shirtless at service.
No. What happened to like no shoes, no shirt, no Zoom service?
Well, we're the church, you know, we come as you are, but put a shirt on. Yeah, so they're just getting a little too comfortable at home.
Got it.
During church. So Liam, and for the matter, every boy student, this is an official rule. Please keep your shirt on. Okay, that was one fail. That was awesome. I want to talk about another fail. This comes from someone named Clint.
Okay.
You don't know him. None of our students know him at either of our campuses. That's because he is the man behind the camera. He films these services. He edits them. He makes us look really good, and you know he cuts it all up. And he's been helping our ministry go forward in this virtual season with youth services for a number of months. And he actually had a really good fail video that he wanted to talk about. So I want you to meet, and you're gonna meet, our really good friend, Clint.
Hey, what's up, Julia? Jono?
Clint.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Good. So I run a video production company, and one of the aspects of my company is flying drones.
That's not part of my job description.
And so I am a fairly accomplished drone pilot. I've been flying for about 4 years. I have like my FAA license for flying my drone, which is pretty cool. So I got this new drone. And I was hired to go film a thing out at Newport Beach, and so I got this new drone. I was really excited about it. I spent a little bit more on it.
Okay.
And took this drone out to Newport Beach the day after I buy it. So I'm
of course, you want to use it, test it out.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm filming this event, and I just kind of had this idea that I should just bring the drone really low and just get this really cool shot. Of course.
I like where this is going.
Yeah, if you guys just want to watch.
I was gonna cut you off.
What happened?
I'd rather watch instead of hear about it.
Yeah. This is the drone shot, and it's kind of, it had to be recovered, so it's kind of glitchy.
What beach are we at? What pier
We're
is
in
this?
Newport.
Okay.
But this is the wave right here that it took my drone.
Oh, and that's the last shot you have.
That's it. The
Oh
drone
my gosh.
went into the ocean.
Wiped out completely.
And
So it's now living at the bottom of the sea.
it was at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean
Oh
for
my gosh.
for a little bit. So after this event was over, one of the kids came up to me and he's like, "Dude, I heard you lost your drone." And
He felt your pain.
he felt my pain, and he's like, "I'm gonna go find it." And I'm like, "Oh no, dude, it's been like an hour.
Yeah.
And there's like currents. You're not finding my drone."
Nope.
He's like, "No, I'm gonna find your drone."
Oh,
This is a stranger.
Total stranger.
Oh my god.
This is like a
Yeah.
world changer.
I know.
Out in the real world, in the life, just
It was pretty
interacting.
awesome.
Okay, cool.
So he like goes out with a bunch of his friends, and sure enough, like 5 minutes later, a kid comes out of the water holding my drone.
He actually
insane.
he actually found
They
it.
found it.
Whoa. But it has to be ruined, right?
Oh, it's completely destroyed. So here's actually what it looks like now.
Okay.
It's been kind of leaking on my island. Water's just been coming out of it over the
Yeah.
last few days.
Yeah.
And then when I try to like turn the propellers, it makes like this crusty sound because all the sand and salt in it.
Yes.
So corroded
Did you
instantly.
think about putting in like a bag of rice? That's what you do with your phones. At least that's what I always heard.
Giant
Yeah.
bag of rice.
Massive.
Yeah, there was way too much water in it.
It's a goner.
It's completely gone. But I got all the footage back, which is great. So that's a win.
Which is why we're able to
it's not
watch
the worst.
this.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we've been showing fail videos of you guys for a number of weeks now, and it was appropriate for you to be our last one.
Fair enough.
Adults make mistakes too,
Absolutely.
but in your case, a very expensive mistake.
Thank you so much, Clint, for that story. And I'm sorry that situation was so salty.
Yep, that's why we asked you to host. That's right.
But that leads us right into our message about being the light and the salt in the earth. And first, let's get a little bit worship from the Costa Mesa students.
I'm Maggie, this is Hudson, and today we're leading worship, so let's get into it. Are you hurting and broken within? Overwhelmed by the weight of sin? Jesus is calling.
When I was in high school, I felt the pressure to get a summer job. My parents weren't telling me I had to, but I really wanted to. And I was like, what would be a cool summer job? Lifeguarding. So I took the test, I did the swimming, I did everything I had to get certified to become a lifeguard, and it became my summer job. And so from high school and college, when I'd come home for summer breaks, I would lifeguard, and I had a blast. And in that job, I would start to become friends with all my coworkers. And I think I was like a senior in high school, maybe freshman in college when this happened, and I started becoming close to this one girl named Stephanie. She was super sweet. She was like a few years younger than me, but she was super fun. We started like hanging out together, like all the lifeguards would like go to a movie after work and hang out at the park because there's like concerts in the park. And when you become friends with your coworkers, eventually they follow you on social media if you have it at the time. And that's what happened. And I realized this handle, like this girl followed me on Instagram named Salty Steph. And I was like, who is Salty Steph? I like had no idea who that was going to be. And I like look at the profile, I'm like, oh, it's Stephanie from work. Like, I wonder why her name is Salty Steph. Like, I wasn't familiar with the slang word of salty, and I was a little embarrassed and not really confident enough to ask her. So I ended up like Googling like the slang for salty, like what does that mean? And it turns out it's when someone gets angry very easily or like over little things that don't need to be. And it's like, ooh, she's salty, like she's a salty girl, like. And sure enough, I put two and two together. I'm like, Steph is kind of salty. Like, that's kind of true. And I realized that salty is just a slang that was really popular in like 2015, 13, somewhere in those years. And we called her Salty Steph from then on out. Then fast forward a few years later, and the term lit becomes pretty cool. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but I remember jumping in to serve here at Rock Harbor in the youth, and we'd be like, oh, worship was like so good today. Like, it was lit. And it's like, come to this event. It's gonna be lit. And we probably overused it way too much, and now lit is dead. I don't think anyone says it anymore. I do sometimes, and that's usually to get a reaction out of you guys, for you to roll your eyes at me and be like, Heather, lit is so like 2 years ago. And I'm like, I know, but I just think it's kind of funny. And so in that, we see that a lot of slang words that happen in vocabulary become like the goal or like the desired thing to be at the time. So salty and lit were desired at their like highest peaks of pop culture. But I think Jesus, well, he does have a completely definition of what it means to be salty and lit. And so we're going to look into what it means to be salty and lit, not by what it meant in 2014 and 2018 or 17, whatever years it was, but what it means to be salty and lit with Jesus. So if you have a Bible, if you don't, that's fine. But if you do, turn with me to Matthew 5:13 through 16, and we'll jump in. So it says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." So this passage right off the bat is Jesus telling us how to live our lives, that we should be salt and light to the earth. I don't know if you're familiar with it at all, if you've heard about it in your life. I remember going to summer camp and hearing all about being salt and the light of the world, and I was like, yeah, sure, like, I know what that means, do I? And if you're like me, I have a hard time understanding what salt means, being the salt to the earth, being the light to the earth. It's kind of an easy imagery to me. Like, there's lights on me right now. There's lights hopefully in your room or in your house that like use to light up things. But being salt is kind of harder. But salt has a lot of purposes. It is used to preserve food. It's used to add color to things. Like, it is in a lot of things that you make. And it adds flavor. That's its key design. I feel like growing up, someone would always be like, oh, hand me the salt. Like, it needs more salt on it. I don't fully understand that. I'm getting better at it. But salt is just used to add to something, to make food usually taste better than it does alone. And so one way I look at it is actually, I don't know if you guys have started baking in quarantine. I know like bread was a really big thing, all the TikTok trends of the frosted, the iced coffee, the whipped coffee. I love though making cookies. And I remember learning to make cookies when I was in middle school. And one of the ingredients, if you bake it from scratch, is salt. And I was like, that is weird. Like, why am I gonna add salt to my cookies? Like, I add salt to my eggs, I add salt to other things, but not usually like my sweets, not my desserts. And so the first time I made cookies, I kept salt out of it. And then they were they were good cookies, but the next time I was like, okay, I'll try out this salt thing. And I added salt to it, and it made it so much better. And now, I don't know if you guys noticed, but you go to like fancy bakeries and they put salt on top of the cookie, and it makes it so much better. And that is just how I see that God has created the world. And he made a cookie, and it's good on its own, but if you add salt to it, like, it's such a good cookie. And I was like, I'm gonna prove this to everyone. So I made cookies. And I added salt to them. And I did indeed test it before I added salt and after I did. I asked the roommates, and everyone in my household agrees with me. The cookies taste better with the salt flakes. It is sea salt, the pink Himalayan one. It's delicious. If you guys were here with me, I would offer you a cookie, but instead I'm gonna offer one to everyone who's here. So, come take a cookie if you want one.
Thank you, Heather.
Yes. They're also vegan, so there's that to it too.
I totally just ate that because I'm not supposed to eat it.
Oh, no, you can eat the cookie.
I ate the cookie, I'm sorry.
Is it a good cookie?
That's a great cookie.
Yeah. See, salt adds to it. It added flavor, it added taste. And I like sprinkling salt now on top of my cookies because I think it makes it so much better. And that is exactly what we are to be when we are commanded in the scripture. In verse 13, to be the salt of the earth, we are to use what God has created, the earth, everything in it, that's already good on its own, but we are to add salt, to add flavor, to add goodness to what he's done. And so I just want to encourage you guys, was the word I was looking for, encourage you guys to add your own flavors onto things, to use what God has put in your life, the goodness he has given us, and to just add flavor, and not like a salty flavor that Steph did when I was a lifeguard that's like a little angry and quick to anger. We'll actually learn next week in James 1 that we are to be slow to anger, not quick to anger, like that salty definition, but to be salty and add good flavor, and to use what God has put in our lives and to make it better. And so we can be salty people. That is good, bringing goodness to what God has already created to make it better. Then the passage goes on to explain that we are to be the light of the world. Like I was saying earlier, this one's way easier for me to like get a grasp on in my head. That I can be like, oh yeah, like we are lights. Lights shine, so we should shine. Is kind of the really quick way that I see it. And again, it's Jesus calling us in to use what the world is already, how the world already is, that it's good, and to make it better. In the darkness, we can't necessarily see what's good and what's in front of us. It's why we need lights at nighttime, because it's dark. And so the lights just continue to display God's goodness. They highlight it. I don't know if you saw the salt on the cookies, but you wouldn't be able to see the salt without the light. And so both add flavor, add goodness to what God has created. And so being a light, being the light of the world as Jesus commands us to be, isn't something that we keep in secret. It's not like we can have this light and just like hold it to ourselves. If you light a light, you can see the light. Everyone can see it. If you try and hide it, like if I were to have like a light bulb and I tried to hide it, you wouldn't be able to see it, but you would still be able to see the glowing through my hands. You would still be able to see that light is coming through. And that might be the case in your guys' lives. Some of you might be really good at telling everyone around you that you love Jesus, you go to church, you follow him, you invite people into that. There might be some of you who are actively trying to hide that light that's inside of you, who you don't want people to know that you're a Christian. You don't want people to think differently or judge you because of whatever stigma people have of Christians in their head. And there's some of you who might kind of just be going through like, yeah, like I have a light inside of me. Like, yeah, I'm the light of the world, and not really trying to shine it and not really trying to hide it. It's pretty indifferent and it's just there. And God is using you in those moments too. I actually relate to that one the most. I look back to when I was in middle school, and I did an outside of school choir into high school too. And there was this girl there, Leslie. I became really close friends with Leslie. We went to Disneyland together. We hung out outside of choir together. We went to different schools, and I was actually a grade older than Leslie. And so when it was her turn to decide what high school she was going to go to, I obviously invited her to come to my high school. I had started to love it. It was a Christian high school. I was terrified of going in the beginning, but I loved it by the time I was trying to encourage her to go. And she was like, oh, that's great. I'm actually going to go to the public school I'm zoned for. And we were like, that's fine. Have so much fun. Hope you're have a good time. We ended up drifting apart a little bit in that time. But unfortunately, Leslie was bullied in school, and so she was looking to transfer schools. And she had remembered how kind I was to her, how I invited her into things, how I included her, how I showed the light of Jesus, and I wasn't trying to at all. And she remembered that, and then she ended up reaching out to me and asking me to give her a tour of the high school, and that completely changed her life. She ended up switching to our high school. She got involved with my youth group too. She got involved at church. She was a great worship leader. She did that, and what she later told me was that when I was graduating, she was like, Heather, I have to thank you so much. You included me. You invited me. You were so kind and loving to me, and you showed me what Jesus asks all of us to do of following him, is to be kind and to love other people. And she's like, you displayed that so well that it changed my life forever. And I was not intending to do that at all with Leslie. I was being friends with her because honestly, I needed a friend in choir. And I was nice to her because I thought that I just try to be nice to people. I didn't realize the impact that God was using my light, that I was not trying to boldly shine at all, but for his goodness, to glorify him so that others could see his good deeds, others could see his love in my life. And it changed Leslie forever. And so I just wonder how we can do that in our lives. God has met us in our lives. He has changed our lives, and we look completely different because of it. Nothing is the same once we have his light, whether we try and hide it or not. And it's something to celebrate, not to hide. As the passage says in here, in verse 11, that's not even the right one. I don't know why I was saying that. Verse 15 encourages us to be a light on a hill, or to be a city on a hill, to be on a stand. If a city is on a hill at nighttime, you can see the lights. If a light is on a stand, you can see it better. In Jesus' time, the reasons they put lights on stands is because that's how it lit up the room better. That's how the room became lit. If you put it on the ground, obviously you can't see everything. They didn't hide it. They didn't put it underneath a bowl. It was there to beautifully shine the light of Jesus, to be bold in his light. And through the lights of the world, people see the light of the kingdom. They see our good deeds, they see God, and God uses it to glorify him. My story with Leslie, I wasn't trying to glorify God in it. I wasn't trying to be a light. He used it to glorify him, and then her life will have a ripple effect and affect other people for God's goodness too. And that's all by just one person being a light. And then when we look at a city on a hill, that's all of these other buildings being lit up, showing their light, and it's so much brighter. It's like when you look from the space station in outer space and you see all the lights that are lit up on the world. I think that's exactly what we're called to be as Christians, that as we light up, we can see it from outer space. People can see it whether we're trying to hide it or not. those lights shine through. They change the world. You can't see in darkness, but light changes you, and it changes you for the good. And so God has changed all of our lives by you watching this, by you coming to church when we can or when we used to. God uses those moments to build our light, to strengthen our light, to not let them go out. And I just want to encourage you guys in this time to continue being a light, to continue wherever it is, if it's with your friend group, if it's with your family, if it's what you post on social media, to just continue leaning into what it means to be a light in your life. For me, as my story with Leslie, I wasn't trying to be a light, but God still used it. But you guys can actively be better than I was, to turn and to try to shine your light brighter, to say things that you know would glorify God, to instead of reacting fast and being the salty definition of being quick to anger, you can turn to prayer and to add that flavor, to add that light into your life, and it changes everything for God's goodness. And so as we looked at what it means to be salty and lit, it's not necessarily what I would have thought it was when I was in high school or when those definitions were popular by pop culture, but God is calling us to live a different definition of salty and lit that is for his goodness, that adds flavor, that shows people his goodness, and it changes the world forever. And so that's how we stay evergreen, is to continue to add salt, to continue to add light to the world. That helps us stay evergreen. It helps us be in a tree that people can see and know that we're different because we follow Jesus, because he's changed our lives. So Rock Harbor Youth, continue shining your light. Continue being salty and lit for the world. You guys are world changers, as we've been highlighting, as we'll highlight another time in this message. You guys are world changers, and that is by being salty and lit. So keep being salty and lit, fam.
That was an awesome message. Thank you so much, Heather. I love that challenge and that reminder that we need to stand out in this world, to be salt and light. And that when we are a light in this world, in a world of darkness, that we actually get to glorify Jesus when we do that. So thank you, Heather, for an incredible message.
Recently, we've been highlighting a lot of the students on World Changers, and right now we're going to have Heather come in and talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so
She's back again.
I'm back again.
Yep.
Same clothes, so it works.
Yep.
As we've been doing World Changers, I think it just plays so easily into being the light of the world and being the salt and light, and how that changes the world. Being the salt and light changes the world. You guys are changing the world. There are so many other stories that we haven't gotten to highlight in this time. And so we just want to encourage you guys to keep being world changers, to keep doing the things that you're doing that are not seen, that aren't highlighted, because God still sees them. He still uses that to glorify him, to bring his goodness, to bring his salt and light to the earth. And it continues to change the world for Jesus. And so we just want to encourage you guys to continue being world changers, because you guys are, whether you believe it or not.
And when we go through life acting like world changers and being intentional about loving others, the world sees that and sees us as followers of Jesus, and they see a glimpse of heaven. They see someone different, and it reminds them that there is a God, and that it reminds them that God sees them. So continue to live that out. I love that charge, reminder. So good. That's all we got for you guys. We've had an awesome service. Next week, we're going to continue this series of Evergreen. We're going into a different book. We're going to be checking out the book of James and diving into the book of James in the New Testament as we continue to talk about how we can live an evergreen lifestyle. All right, we love you guys, and we'll see you next week.